Hi, this is Numeric Citizen. In today's video, I want to talk about how you can automate simple tasks in Craft using Keyboard Maestro. If you have been using Craft for a while, you probably know that there's many keyboard shortcuts to do different things, like if you show the side panel here and you want to select the title for the currently selected text block, you can do a Control-1 and then you will get a title. And there's many other key combination that you can invoke from the keyboard to actually set attributes of those selected object on the screen. If you do the same thing like bold, italic, strike through, and code block, you'll see that there is a few keyboard combination also for the selection of a block, and that's pretty much it. There's also those same keyboard combination can be invoked from the format menu, where you'll be able to select those exactly the same keyboard shortcut. But what if you want to change from the default documents view and you want to flip to the calendar view, or if you want to flip to the search view? You can invoke the search view by going in option O, if I remember well. But you can also it would be useful to be able to switch between those views with other keyboard shortcut too. There is no way, if you want to go to the notification view, there is no keyboard shortcut to my knowledge to invoke the notification view. Also, if you happen to scroll within this sidebar here and you want to go up in the home view, you have to scroll back up and get access to the home view, because there is no way to select the home view without by using a keyboard shortcut. So this is what it is all about. This video is to show you how you can automate tasks that are not available by Craft with Craft default keyboard shortcuts. And for that, I'll be using the well-known Mac utility called Keyboard Maestro. Before showing you how we make macros in Keyboard Maestro, I'm going to show you how the invocation of those shortcuts or macros are experienced within Craft. So let's say I want to switch between the default document view and go to the calendar view. I can invoke the key combination on my keyboard and I'll be switching to the calendar view, and I can go back to the default view if I want. I can invoke also the search if I want to invoke with a different keyboard combination, and I can also go to the notification view pretty easily. When I'm looking at a document view, you can see that there is a lot of items on the left sidebar. If I want to scroll down without touching my mouse, I could do a scroll here like that and moving within my my sidebar. Also, you can, and if I want to go to the home view without touching again, there is no key combination to go to the home view. I can hit the keyboard and then I'll be going to the home view. I can also go to the star documents if I want, and I can go back to the, if I want to the calendar view, go back to the default view, and you get the idea. So I'll show you how we can do a macro, how it looks within the Keyboard Maestro utility. So this is the main window of the Keyboard Maestro editor. I'm not going to give you a full course of about this Mac utility, because it's a pretty powerful one, and it would take a very different videos for that. So basically what you see here in the main window, the left portion is a group of macros that you want to have defined. So all my automation goes into a specific group. I can, if I want, disable this group or enable that, because I would like to just disable all the macros for some reason. But currently all the macros inside this group are enabled. And this is the list of the macros that I have defined. I'm using a naming convention where I'll set the name of the macro to be the application where the macro should be used. It's only a matter of displaying things in the right alphabetic order. If I go in the all macros there, I should be able to see if I use the sorting by name, the macros related to a specific app to be grouped together. I'll go back and select between using the keyboard combination, and I'll go back here. So I made a few macro that you saw just earlier in the video, where I go home and or I'll select the default document view. And the way it works, it's pretty simple. The detail of the macro is on the right side here. So what is this saying? This macro is going to be invoked using this key combination when it is pressed. I could make this macro available also in the menu within in the menu bar, which I'm not seeing right now. And also I could be invoking this macro from a script and other ways. And after that, there's the section where all the action are going to be placed and be executed in sequence. The first tile that I'm using also is always a comment to tell me how this macro should be invoked. The problem is when I have many macros defined for a specific application, I might forget the key combination to invoke this macro, or even the context in which the macro should be invoked for the macro to work correctly. So as you can see here, I'm just saying that this macro can be invoked in any context as soon as the craft window is the front one. And this is where we can see here that the craft window is at the front, then this macro can be invoked. And after that, the click action is inserted in this tile. And what it says is this, the click action is going to be at this position relative to the front window top left corner. And this is the way to simulate a click in the window. So as soon as I hit this key combination option command 1, this is what's going to happen. If I go on the next macro, this is about the same one, but the key combination is different. And also the coordinates to click, to simulate the click, is different because the position on the screen for this icon is just a bit further right than the first one. So this is why the key coordinates, the point coordinates are different. So it's pretty basic macro for simple stuff. But if I want to create a more sophisticated one, like creating a link label, where what I'll do is I'll type a parenthesis link, close parenthesis, and then click the word link and insert a hyperlink into that. Then there's a lot of things going on in this macro because I have to first type the word link and then move around the cursor. So I select the word link and then set the shortcut or the link to be the actual bookmark. So how does it work again? This is invoked using a different key combination. In this case, it's option command A when they are pressed, and this is in craft when the craft window is in front. Also, this exact macro can be invoked within the craft application itself. I'll show you an example how it is done from the menu bar. And then what I'm going to do is first is to insert this in the currently positioned cursor within the document. So the cursor has to be inserted into the document for that to work. Then there is a pause of about half a second. And the reason for that is that we have to take into consideration the user interface reaction to action we do on the keyboard or with the mouse. Sometimes there is a short animation. If we do action too fast, then the macro won't work because the user interface is not ready to take the next action. So this is why we need to insert pause in the execution of the macro for that to be working fine. And then once the word here is inserted into the text, wait half a second and then move around within the document to go and select the link word by using the shift key while moving to the left. This is why I simulate a keystroke here with a shift key and the left arrow pressed. I do that 4 times because there is 4 letters into the word. And I do that 5 times because there is the parenthesis and the 4 letters in the word link. And then I wait again half a second, and then I'll press the Command K key combination to invoke the box where we can set the bookmark for the selected text. Then I'll wait half a second for this box to appear on the screen. Then I'll hit Command V to paste the text. So it means that in the clipboard, when you want to invoke this macro, you need to remember to first copy the link or the bookmark that you will be pasting into this word. And then you wait half a second, and then you hit return on the keyboard, and then you wait again half a second, and then you hit escape on the keyboard. So the word link is deselected. So this is a pretty much a more complicated macro. The problem is this is actually on the Mac Mini, and for some reason this macro doesn't work on the Mac Mini. But if I go on the MacBook Air and I invoke the exact same macro, it will work fine. And I suspect this is because there is some conflict of key combination with installed software on the Mac. But if for a simple configuration, it should be working just fine. Also, if I want to like go switching to a different space within the craft environment, this is done by using, again, a key combination that will just send 2 clicks, but I'll wait about a little bit less than half a second for the animation of the sidebar to work and do its magic. And when the sidebar has been expanded, then I can click again at a different location, and then I'll switch to a different space within my craft environment. So this is Option Command M. I'll try that right now. So Command Option M. Boom, I'm in the other space. If I do Command Option D to go to the default one, it will do the same thing. But you'll see that for that to work, the two space where I want to switch back and forth needs to be pinned at the top of the sidebar in order to be to work correctly. So this is the kind of conclusion that I came to be for that to work on the Mac Mini and the MacBook Air. So as you can see, it's not that complicated, but it requires a lot of testing and errors and testing to make sure that it works in all case. And you need to really select the right option within the macro for that to be working in different visual configuration on your Mac. Because when you move things around, if you don't pay attention and you set the coordinates of the click to be from the top left corner of the screen, if you move the window of the application, then the coordinate won't fall at the right place on the application user interface. So you have really you need to be really careful when designing your macro. And how you see if you are using the right option for a click. So I'll give you an example with this one. So I click at this position at this 219 and 125 from the front window top right corner. So from the selected window, which is craft, at this exact position, I should be using the right place to select the right space within my sidebar. So it's pretty tricky to make. There is also another one where I try to select the right template. And this is done, I'll try to see where is, yeah, if I want to create a square card. If I want to create a square card, let's go in the testing document here. Let's say I want to select a text block and then I want to make it a card, a square card using this option here. So I could do the Command Shift L, it will select the default card format. But what if I want to use the square one? This is the second choice in the pop-up window where I have to scroll. If I click on that and I need to scroll one, I need to scroll under one, and I want to select this, there is no key combination in this place to be able to select this specific card format. So what I have to do is to create a macro that will do this. It will click on the card. In fact, it will invoke the card, configure card window by invoking the command and L. And then also it will try to recognize in the window for this specific icon. And if it recognizes that, it will simulate a click once, simulate a clicks another click, and then it will try to recognize this button and it will click apply on that. And you'll see that in action when I'm invoking this exact macro. So what I'll do, as you can see, it's a Command Shift L should be enough to invoke the card configuration. But what I'll do is I'll use the macro, and I don't see the macro for, oh yeah, it's here. I can make a square card by using this drop-down menu instead of hitting the keyboard, but the whole purpose of that is to be able to use the keyboard as much as possible. So what I'll do is I'll hit the option command equal. So select the text block, command option equal. You see the green thing here, and it doesn't move enough because I think there's an issue with the recognizing of the timing of the execution of the scroll. So I'll try to do that again. Escape, Command M. For some reason, it doesn't work. So it's kind of tricky. It should have click another once and then click here, boom, to make it a card. So I tested it earlier today, but for some reason during the demonstration, it doesn't work. But I think you get the idea. And now you understand why it requires a lot of testing before the macro to be useful and to be working in as many contexts as possible. Okay, let's give it another try because I made some change to my macro. So now it should be working fine. Command option equal. It should select the card. Boom. So as you can see, the green square and rectangles are the place where the Keyboard Maestro is trying to compare the image on screen with the one that I selected when I built the macro. So I'll switch to the macro. And I'll show the main window for that. And the change I made for this is simple. I did extend the pause here from half a second to 0.8 second. So it gives more time for the user interface to react. And the shape of the image that we should recognize in a very specific area is the right arrow here in a circle. So by pausing the macro execution, it gives more time for the execution of this step. And again, also I have two click on the same icon. So this is why you have this style here, a pause and then another click. And at the end, I do have an image to recognize, which is the rectangle button that the Keyboard Maestro will discover in on the screen, and then it will click on the space to actually set the card configuration. So as you can see, it works. So as you can see, building macros with Keyboard Maestro is pretty easy, but to make it work with the app, like in this case here, Craft, it can be tricky and it requires a lot of errors and testing and errors and testing and errors to be able to make the macros working. I have a few things that I want to mention though, is the fact that some macros, when you invoke those with the keyboard combination, the keys combination on your keyboard, you have to make sure that they don't conflict with other apps or other key combination used by Craft itself. So you have to be very careful about selecting. I found that the best use is to use the command and the option and then a letter to invoke the macro from Keyboard Maestro. The other thing is that if you make it work on a Mac with a big screen and you use the window in a different size and place on the screen, if you happen to use the same macro on another Mac, because you can have those macros synchronized between two Macs with Keyboard Maestro, you may find that your macro won't work on the other Mac. So it means that you have to plan in advance how you are going to invoke each action so they are portable across devices. And the other thing that you need to consider is that even though Keyboard Maestro is very powerful, for some reason, maybe it's because my understanding or my knowledge of Keyboard Maestro is not, I'm not at the expert level yet, but there are some things in Craft that are not able, that we don't, that we cannot automate. And one reason and one example of that is like if you want to set the header image of a document. So if I go here and I want to set an image for that, I can click on this and you see that the menu appears only when I mouse over this area on the Mac, on the Craft window. So that's one of the issue because otherwise the icon is not visible, so Keyboard Maestro cannot look for it on the screen. What you can do is maybe go in this view here on the page style view in the right sidebar, and then click on that cover image icon, which is pretty easy to do in Keyboard Maestro. But hovering here, over here, and clicking on this place on the screen is tricky to automate. What you can do instead is maybe select this drop-down menu and then move the mouse over here and then click on this icon. I did not test it, but for some reason, I expect that it will be very tricky to automate because if you click on that, the option that you will get here is a place where the last time you went to open a file. So it will be tricky to select the exact file or photo that you want to make, that you want to use as a header image in this place. So it's not the easiest workflow to automate. It will require quite of error in testing to make it work if we can make it work. So again, not everything is automatable with Keyboard Maestro. And I think it's a combination of limitation or the way Craft is displaying many of its user interface elements and expose them to a third-party application like Keyboard Maestro. So that's it for today's video. That wasn't maybe the easiest to understand, but I hope you still learn a few things. Maybe you've got some ideas of things that you could automate in your Craft usage. So if you like this video, just hit like. I'll share the link to the Keyboard Maestro app in the show notes. So thanks again for being there and see you soon for another one, guys. Thank you very much. Bye.